Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming to today's Play Attention special webinar on mindfulness and ADHD. I'm really glad to see we have a large audience from around the world, and I really do appreciate you taking out some time today to learn more on this subject. A couple of things I want to mention before we get started. One is that we are recording the event. So at the end of the webinar, you will receive an email follow-up that will have the link to the replay so that you'll be able to watch the webinar again or share it with others. Also, if at any time you do have questions, please type your questions in the Q&A box found at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. That way, our presenter will be able to address your questions as we proceed through. It is really a pleasure to have our guest speaker today, Chuck Pizza, and he will be spending time with you to discuss this very important topic. I hope you enjoy it, and thanks again for coming.
So welcome, everyone. Thanks for taking some time out to attend, I think, an important topic for many people. Mindfulness has been a term that's been getting a lot of press lately. You see it pretty much everywhere, and it has a lot of different meanings, which is one of the things I want to get into. We will, of course, be focusing primarily on ADHD as well as executive function, and how this would play into cognitive issues. So, what is mindfulness? So, as I said, many definitions that are out there. What I'd like to focus on is the concept of being aware of your current state of being, and also the concept of being present in the moment. So these two things are key, and they cross a great diversity of our wholeness, but primarily I'll be looking at three areas, although I think there's really four areas. There's an emotional component, mental component, physical component, and then what I'd like to call the spiritual component. So being aware in the present moment and being aware of your current state emotionally would be something like if you could answer the question, how are you feeling? And what does that mean? Mentally, it would be, what are you thinking? What thoughts are passing through your mind at any one moment in time? Physically, it would be checking in with the body. How is the body feeling? What's going on there? And then spiritually, the way I'd like to define it for this application is, do you feel connected or separated from the outside world? Do you feel like you notice that you are part of this web of life, or do you feel separate from it? So mindfulness we can also look at maybe understanding it by understanding its opposite, which is mindlessness. So, of course, this would be not being aware of your body, mind, or your emotions, being maybe only in one area of your life predominantly. So, we hear the expression, someone is stuck in their head, and of course, this is the mental component. Or someone who wears their heart on their sleeves, which is somebody that's in an emotional component. Now, that being said, and then, of course, in physical, there is the entire continuum or range of narcissism. But of course, we know people are wired and built certain ways. So for instance, you could have someone who's mentally focused, or you might have someone who's more emotionally focused. Now, this is the way the person is wired or built, as I say. And that is a different thing than what I'm saying here. Here, we're talking about someone who maybe spends 80, 90% of their time in their emotional body or their emotional makeup, or 80 or 90% in their head. Then there's a shift there where we're not being mindful. The problem with mindlessness is that it can allow someone to ignore, quote, minor stresses and strains that come in, in our everyday life. And what then happens is they, of course, build up to either some kind of climax, some kind of meltdown or crisis that occurs. Now, mindlessness in itself can naturally bring us back to mindfulness. So it's a built-in self-regulatory mechanism, as are many our entire makeup. But I use the example of driving your car. So you may be driving your car, intending to go to some specific place. You're thinking about what the boss said or what your spouse did. Or maybe you're worrying about where are the kids at this moment. And then all of a sudden, you run through a red light. Or maybe you have to slam on the brakes because you just missed your turn. So that's an example of, you're not being present, you're mindless at that point. Your mind was in one particular focus, whether it was in the head with thoughts or in the emotions worrying about something. So what happens, however, is this mindlessness brings us to a point where we get shocked back into reality. So after we've made that sharp turn that we almost missed, or we went through the red light, we might slow down and we'll go, whew, boy, I got to really focus on my driving. That brings us back to our attention. Attention is brought back to the task at hand. So in and of itself, mindfulness can bring us back to being mindful again. As I say, it's self-regulatory, but there are things we can do to assist this. Now, because there are so many definitions of mindfulness, it can go anywhere from a very soft definition of trying to be mindful of yourself and your emotions and how you feel about others, to a very hard definition of doing some kind of extreme type of meditation. So science like to have a term or a definition so that psychologists, sociologists, and those who study mindfulness can have one specific thing that they can all agree on if they're going to be doing assessments and research into mindfulness to see what its effects are. So the scientific definition is the self-regulation of attention with an attitude of curiosity, openness, and acceptance. So let's look at this, break this down a little bit. So we have the self-regulation aspect. Mindfulness is self-regulated. It's part of the natural part of our essence, or our being, if you will, for the mind to talk to the emotions, to talk to the body. So we have this complete circle of these three. So it's self-regulating. It's self-regulating of attention. It's all about attending to a task or attending to a moment, being attentive. And it's with a certain attitude. It's not just paying attention because you're forced to be in attention, you're being forced to do something. No, it's with an attitude of curiosity, openness, acceptance of what is. So that's the scientific definition that everyone uses pretty much when they're doing their research. Now, if I had to pare this down to say just a couple words that would be meaningful, I would call it aware attention. So it's a state of being in equilibrium. It's a state of where you are in equilibrium with your emotions, with your thoughts, and with your body. So once again, mind, heart, body, if you will. Imagine it being a circle of three things, and we're just connecting the circle. The unfortunate part is, I think, that in our society and our educational systems, most everyone is trained to develop the mind and the thinking process. We're taught to read a great deal. We're taught to study. We're taught to memorize words and formulae and things like that. Very mentally focused type of awareness. In fact, we have a lot of problems where people think that by mentally understanding an experience, they've had the experience, when in fact that's not the case. Unfortunately, very little time or attention or training is given to the awareness process, being aware of what's going on in the mind, but also being aware of how you're feeling about certain things at one point in time, and striking a balance between the two. So as my little graphic shows here, we can have a mind full, or we can be mindful. And the mind full, of course, as you see, is just complete chaos. It's full of all sorts of extraneous thoughts. They're all over the place. And this, of course, we've all experienced. You'll notice the clear, simple mind full is represented by, of all things, an animal. And of course, animals are great. For those of us who have animals, love animals, you're very, very well aware that they're very unfettered by a lot of this stuff. In fact, it's one of the reasons why we love our animals. They teach us to love. They are loving of us. They also actually, as an energy healer, they actually help balance us. When we're feeling stressed, they can de-stress us. Part of it is because of what's going on right here in this graphic. They are more open and clear, and we have the cluttered full mind. So some of the other issues that can occur with mindlessness or being out of equilibrium with any one of those three things would be sleep issues, insomnia. Part of the problem there is we perseverate. So one particular thought sticks with us, and the more we put our attention on that thought gets bigger, and it grows, and it grows, and it grows. And so what was a small little thing now is a really big thing. This is one of the things that loops through our heads when we put our heads on a pillow at night, and we can't seem to let it go. Monkey brain, even in daytime activities, where we can't shut it off. The mind just keeps going, going, going. Someone says, well, why don't you meditate or sit down? Oh, I can't do that. I can't relax. I've got monkey brain going on. Can't turn the mind off. It's just too full of so many things. One of my favorite things in the people who I work with, some of my clients, is I'll ask them, well, how are you feeling? And of course, very often I'll get a response, well, I think I feel. Or I'll get a person very often who will look up to one side and then answer me. So they're obviously not feeling, there's a disconnect there. They're dissociating to some other place to find the answer. The other part would be with mindlessness is negative thinking. So where we have thoughts of I'm no good, or I'm too old, or I can't do that. And these are just thoughts. They're just thoughts that are passing through our mind. But then we've been so trained to focus on that we now think that these are real. And then if we think that they're real long enough, what happens is we believe them. And we've now created a belief system. And of course, if we stay with that belief system, as we know, that can turn into a pattern. So they start out just as simple thoughts, and then we kind of like hold on to them and build onto them, turn them into something that they're not necessarily. So our mind is like a wonderful thing. It's an incredible tool, but we have other tools in our bag. And you can't fix everything with just one tool. It wouldn't be a great thing if we just had a hammer, but we had no nail or board to use the hammer with. So just having one tool doesn't do you much good. This is where the concept of having all these cylinders, if you will, firing and in coordination at the same time comes in. So as I say here, mindfulness is a collaboration of the body, the mind, the emotions, and the outside world. So what's the function of mindfulness? Well, it helps us stay balanced in space and time. It helps us to kind of know, and by that what I mean is knowing where you are and how you feel at any one particular point in time. Now, that may seem obvious, but you'd be surprised if you try mindfulness exercise, how sometimes it may seem difficult, or how you can be there one moment and then you are immediately zipped out of there. So balance means you're there kind of like all the time. It's kind of a flexible, fluid thing. It's not like this, and then you bring it down. It's kind of like always in balance. Awareness, as we probably know, is essential to survival. Obviously, if you aren't aware of your environment, what can happen? You can step in a hole. If you're in a city or busy street and you step off the curb, there's cars going by. So us being aware is a very, very important survival aspect. So mindfulness assists in that. It also assists in decision making. We don't usually think of it that often, but mindfulness is very important here. If you're in touch with your thoughts and your emotions, then when something comes up, a decision is thrust upon you, it's easier for you to say yay or nay to it. If you think about it, and then you see how you feel about it, and you're balanced with that, you can say, yeah, I think I like to do that, or no, that's not really me, or I don't think I want to do that. I may want to do it another time, but I don't want to do it now. Being aware and being present allows you to make decisions more easily. If you only make the decision in the head, kind of mentally, if you just spreadsheet things out, plus column and a minus column, and spreadsheet them out, the mind is not a good place to make a decision. It's a great collector of data. It's a phenomenal organizing tool component for us, but its point is not to make decisions. It has to come down also to how you're feeling about it. It takes the heart and the mind together for you to process a decision. It promotes well-being. Being mindful promotes well-being. It helps prevent you from getting ill, from getting sick. Once again, you're aware of the body. That part. You can feel if some emotion has impacted your physical body somehow. So well-being is a very important aspect, of course, and mindfulness is a key component of that. It improves neuroplasticity of the brain. Tons and tons of studies show how mindfulness, relaxation techniques, meditation, all improve the neuroplasticity of the brain. It can also help reduce anxiety and depression disorders. And the way it does this is it lowers any high amygdala activity. Any of the activity that's going on will affect that. Mindfulness has many different dimensions here. So I would just say that's its function. So let's look at some techniques. Body scan is usually the first and foremost technique that most people utilize. And the way they utilize it is usually you can start from head to toe, but you can also go from toe to head. It really doesn't matter. But really what you're doing is you're checking in or asking what's going on. You can start at the top of your head, feel your forehead, come down to your cheeks, your eyes, your ears, your throat, neck, shoulders, just going through a scan, nice and slow, feeling what is going on. Is there any stress, tension? Do I have any muscular aches or pains? Is there any nervousness in the body? Any sharp pains or dull aches? So this will give you an idea about how you're feeling. It gets you in touch with the feeling part of you. And it's a good idea if you do this particular body scan to take a full minute. It's too easy for us to, once again, get stuck in our heads and just kind of quickly scan through and get, yep, my head's fine. Yep, my eyes are fine. Yeah. Take the full minute, go through, stop, pause, and wait and see what comes to you, what you feel as you're making the scan and assessing. Mindful breathing. Breathing is going to be an important component of any of this work. So what you do here is simply focus on your inhalation and your exhalation. Watch your abdomen rise and fall. You can even put your hand on your belly and just feel it rise and fall. Notice the breath, that there's motion to it. It's fluid. There's an in and an out direction to it. You don't necessarily attaching any feelings to what's coming up when you do this. You're just being in the moment. You're allowing that process to occur. That's mindful breathing. And you can do this anytime. You don't have to make a meditative practice out of it. You can just do it at work, do it in the car. It takes, you can just do it for a minute. And 1 minute of doing that is enough to make a shift in your mindfulness, to take you out of where you may have been and hung up and into something that is got you more centered. Mindful observation. So here, what we want to do is we want to take a specific object, something in your room, like a picture or a plant, whatever it is. You want to focus on that object just for a few seconds or so, and just see what thoughts arise about that object. So let's say it's a picture, a family picture. So you light upon that, look at it, and of course, the very first thing you're going to say, well, it's a picture of my family. But then as you remain with it, it's going to take you back to maybe what was going on when that picture was taken. Maybe it'll go to a deeper level about what were the circumstances that surrounded that event. And then maybe deeper things, what period of life or time in your life was that picture taken? So there's subtler and subtler layers that you will experience while you're looking at a particular object. You're just doing this neutrally. You're asking, how does this object make you feel? And you're watching any memory or thought processes that may come up, but you're not necessarily attaching any meaning to it. Now, what this does, this mindful observation, is quiets the background noise of the mind and allows you to focus or shut out outer distractions. Environmental awareness. Well, this is very similar, except now what we're going to do is we're going to sit inside, or we can be outdoors. And you just want to notice your environment. What do you smell? What do you hear? What do you see? How does it feel? Is it hot or cold? If you're outside, is it sunny or overcast? Is it humid or dry? So you are experiencing your environment, and you're basically, what we're doing here is utilizing our senses and we're fine-tuning the senses so that we're putting the attention there as opposed to, say, up here or in here. This tends to shut out all of your agendas. It gets rid of what should I be doing. It gets rid of, oh, I'm upset about a certain situation. It gets kind of rid of your agendas for that moment, because now you are attending in a sensory fashion to what's in your immediate environment. It presses the reset button, and then it'll bring you very, very, very quickly back into the present moment. And of course, some of these you can combine. You can do this environmental awareness and do some breathing with it at the same time. And that can make it even more powerful, can amp up the effect. Mindful awareness. So this is kind of what we've been doing, but it's basically more designed about thinking before you act. So being in the moment, as we said, knowing where you are and how you're feeling in any one point in time, having that balance is important. And this practice is not necessarily about acting on any of the feelings. This awareness is not, well, I have to do this so I can act on this decision or this feeling. It's not about that. It's really just about being mindful and being aware about you being in this particular point, the centeredness that's within you. It's giving yourself time to watch. You're kind of being the watchful observer of your process, of your thinking or of your emotions, wherever you tend to be. You're kind of like trying to get outside of yourself and look at yourself. One of the things you can do, a trick that I very often do, is talk to yourself in a different person. Like I might say, oh, well, there's Chuck. He's making himself a salad for lunch. Oh, there's Chuck. He's walking outside. Here's Chuck. He's getting into the car. Even that puts you into a mode of where you aren't completely locked into some particular mode or yourself. Now, this is very good for impulse control issues. So this gets into that stop, think, then act. Bringing in all your tools so that you can more easily do what needs to be done and come out with a more balanced response instead of some imbalanced response. Another technique is called 4+4. So 4+4 uses 4 senses and 4 different stimuli. So what you do is you ask yourself, what are 4 things that I see? And you enumerate them, or you write them down. 1, 2, 3, 4. What are 4 things that I'm hearing? What are 4 things that I'm feeling? That sometimes can be a little more difficult, but 4 different things that you're feeling. And then 4 different things that I smell. Also can be a more difficult one because we may not have fine-tuned our olfaction so to the point where we can really discriminate between a bunch of different smells. But it's still a good technique to do. This is a great activity for kids. If you're with a child or children and they start to become bored, or they start to become overactive, starting to get a little too energetic, this is a great game to play with them because it will help them. If they're bored, it raises their energy level up and gives them attention. If they're overactive, it brings their attention down to a point where it's more balanced and manageable. In adults, it's great if you are tending toward being anxious about something or impatient. So if you can do this 4+4 exercise, it will mitigate that. You'll become less anxious, you'll be much more in the moment, and if you're feeling impatient about something, it'll take you out of the future and bring you back into the present moment. So another one has to do with the physical body, and this is tactile mindfulness. So this is where we get to use the body and use it as a messenger for what we're doing. And it's very, very good if you're having difficulty separating from or stopping some behavioral pattern. So what you want to do is grab an ice cube. You can hold it in your fingertips or in the palm of your hand, and be aware of how it feels when you hold it. So it's going to go through a cycle, as we would all well imagine. You're going to feel that it's cold. Then the longer you hold it, it's going to start to burn and you're going to feel some pain. And then if you hold it long enough, what happens is that pain shifts and goes away and you have numbness. So that numbness is what you're left with. Well, this physical, tactile mindfulness exercise helps remind us that our emotions carry the same path. They come in, the emotion comes in. We may feel some pain with the emotion. If we hold on to the emotion or hold on to the pain, what happens? We become numb to it. And then what happens is we now complete a cycle, and if we continue to hold on to it, we just keep replicating that cycle. The emotion, the pain, numb, emotion, pain, numb. In some instances, if you have a lot of emotions and they become overwhelming, then you are in a complete state of numbness. And you don't even know what you feel at that point because you are completely, pretty much anesthetized. So having that understanding of that cycle, you can ask yourself a couple of these questions. Do you acknowledge the pain, kind of breathe through it, move through that pain, and then get through it? Or are you the type that holds on to pain? You keep feeling it, and then you get frustrated by it, and then you create an endless loop with it. I use an analogy quite often of a thunderstorm with emotions. Emotions are very much like what nature shows us. A thunderstorm builds, comes up. You have this gigantic thunderstorm, crash of lightning and thunder, and big boom bah. And then what happens? It gradually diminishes. It goes away. The clouds part. The blue skies and the sun comes out. Over and done with. Okay, our emotions are very much like that, but our problem pretty much is because we were so mentally focused that we will take an emotion, we'll get into our heads with it, and then we will then allow our minds to become involved and say, okay, why did I have this emotion? Why did this happen to me? I don't understand. Is there something wrong with me? We now have taken the emotion, instead of letting it progress, truly have felt it and experienced it, and then just kind of let it go and move on. We now have caught it with the trap of our mind. And at that point, now we will we will perseverate or put it into an endless loop that can, may never go away. It can even develop into a pattern if we hold on to it long enough. So tactile mindfulness is one of the ways where we can have a physical corollary to understanding how our emotions actually work. So let's talk about relaxation for a second. So relaxation, as I define it, is relieving the mind, the emotions, and the body of stress, tension, anxiety, and restoring equilibrium. Lots of different definitions for relaxation, but this is kind of one that I like working with because I think it covers most of the bases. Now, in my clinical practice as an energy healer, I often use the analogy that our bodies, minds, and emotions are like a magnet. So we attract things from our physical environment, emotions of ourselves and others, mental energies from everywhere, from our families, from our coworkers. If we watch the news a lot, from even our environment, what's going on outside of us. Well, at some point, we need to discharge this magnet and let go of any energy that is contributing to our feeling stressed and anxious. So we need to find ways of turning that magnet off, or at least discharging it. The magnet may always be there because we are at heart what I define as energy beings. So we are constantly, in an energy flux status with the world around us and other people. But there are things we can do about that. So the body has to use a lot of energy if it's going to hold on to some emotion, some stress, some strain. I use the analogy here of muscular tension in the body. If you get a tense muscle in the body, then you form a knot of muscular tension. The body has to exert energy to maintain that knot. Well, if you think about all the stresses and strains you have, emotions and so forth, that's a lot of energy output that you're holding on to. And I use the analogy here, it's kind of like running your AC or heat all the time with the windows and the doors wide open. That unit is just going to run, trying to maintain a homeostasis in the home, and it's the same for the bodily environment. You are running energy constantly, maintaining all those stresses and strains. So relaxation techniques helps us restore or balance ourselves to normal levels. And by normal levels, I mean in a state of equilibrium with the mind, the emotions, and the physical body. Now, for ADHD children, and for adults for that matter too, it's very important that we create a physical space that we can call our own. Like a bedroom, for most children it would be a bedroom or a playroom, but something that they can call their own, that is a space that they can go to decompress and relax. This is important for adults too. You need some space, some place in your home where you can go to that You can turn off all distractions and be alone, whether it's for 1 minute or 20 minutes. That is a safe, secure environment, comfortable, and without distraction. This creating this space is one of the most important things you can do in terms of relaxation for yourself and for your children. So let's talk about some specific areas. So in terms of relaxation of the emotional body, this can be done through increasing pleasant cues in your environment. So for instance, sound. You have maybe like to play some music that you really like, some soft music, something that will soothe you. Maybe sounds of birds, or there's CDs or nature sound music, or something that you can get, from iTunes or download. Just something that plays in the background. Waterfalls or rain. Very, very soothing. Even silence, not having any sound at all, is good too. But sound is one of the cues in your environment that you can set to help lower your emotional load. Sights, pictures, artwork, colors that you like, that are your colors, and organization. We're going to talk about organization a little bit. Having some organization in your environment is important. If you have a lot of clutter around and you try and relax in that, what's going to happen is your mind's going to go to all those pieces and say, oh, I got to do that. Oh, I forgot I had to do that. It's a setup for you to be distracted. So organization in this environment will help lower your emotional load. Now for the mind, at the cognitive level, it's about not thinking, just being. So this is where meditation comes in, or prayer, but it's about not thinking and allowing yourself to just be and see what's going on, disconnecting a little bit from the head. Guided imagery works really, really well with this. Guided imagery is the situation where you could have somebody or a CD playing, and it's about you closing your eyes, you being in your imagination, and following the description that the person is giving. And as you do that, you are now painting that picture for yourself. Painting a picture of yourself walking on the beach, or walking in a forest under the dappled sunlight through the trees. Whatever it is, it's engaging the imagination as opposed to the thinking part of the brain. This gets you into your moment. Reading something enjoyable that's non-stressful is very, very, very good. Particularly reading something that's different from your work or hobby, or maybe a hobby is a good thing to read, but different from your work. So you're not bringing your work home and reading that, but reading something that will take you completely out of the norm, that will give you some degree of relaxation. Learning a hobby can be a good thing. Even though initially it takes some energy to do that and can cause your stress levels to tick up a little bit, overall, it's quite good from removing you from other distractors. The physical, the body. So with the physical body, relaxation is about relieving pain, muscular imbalances, and regulating blood flow, using the cardiovascular system as one of the ways that we can do that. So yoga is great for this. Any kind of body stretching is really good for the physical. Massage, if you enjoy massage, that's a wonderful technique. Relieving muscular imbalances, and it also increases blood flow. Hot tub, bath with Epsom salts. Epsom salts is magnesium sulfate. Magnesium is an essential mineral element for the muscles. The muscles need magnesium to function properly, and it actually is one of the primary things that you can do to help relax a muscle. Progressive muscular relaxation. This is kind of like the head to toe thing we talked about before, but now what you're doing is you're going to physically either going to start at your head or you can start at your toes, but you're going to walk through and you are going to relax that part of your head. You're going to relax your forehead. You're going to relax your eyes and eyebrows. You're going to relax your ears. You're going to relax your jaw, your neck, your shoulders, chest, belly. You can even do a technique where you tighten really, really strongly and then release and relax. Tighten and then relax as you go through each part of your body. And then breath work. Breath work is critical and important. It's that in and out and focusing on your inhalation and exhalation, noticing the breath and just letting it rise and fall on its own. Not you helping it, not you adding anything to it, just you're watching it. Very, very powerful for the body. Social relaxation. So here we have social environments that we know, and what we should be doing in terms of relaxation is looking at social environments that promote calm, tranquility, and happiness. Laughter is an excellent relaxation technique. It's something, if you can do it for 1 to 5 minutes a day, get a laugh track or something, listen to some joke thing. I'm sure there's an app for that. There's an app for everything. But, a good belly laugh, for a few minutes a day is enormously relaxing. It releases endorphins in the brain. There's a tremendous amount of release of tension with laughter. If you're more extroverted in your personality, you may want to go out in the social world and be around more people. That's more comfortable for you. Being on a one-on-one may be a little bit more tense for you. Conversely, if you're an introvert, you might like the one-on-one or one-on-two reaction better. And that will be helpful to you. Those people who are more structured and like structure in their world, they don't like surprises, and they need to plan their activities because the unknown and the unpredictable is very stressful. So be mindful of that. Be aware that you want to plan something out better for yourself. If you are unstructured, then you prefer not to waste the mental energy on planning. You want to kind of be thrown into the situation. Maybe you even enjoy having surprises and things show up for you. So just be mindful of the type of person you are. Now, for ADHD children, be mindful of their temperaments, especially when planning activities or events or trips in place. If you know that they don't like crowds, or maybe they don't like being in a car for long periods of time, then make a plan that will reduce the stress in those situations. One of the things I would suggest is involving the child, if they're at that age, where you can ask them to help them make the decision. You might say to them, well, we're going to be doing this trip. We're going to be in the car for 4 or 5 hours. What is it that you would like to do during that time? Get their input. Not only will the child feel good that you're asking them for the input, you may actually get some things you hadn't thought of. That would be very, very helpful in that situation. Environmental relaxation. Well, here it's about what in your environment relaxes you. Is it colors that would have the most effect for you? Is it what you're seeing, the sights? Is it the sounds? If you're in your office in particular, if you work in an office environment, color, what you visually see in the office is important. Also, the light level. Is it dim or is it very, very bright? Is that uncomfortable for you, either of those situations, and can you shift it and change it? Also be aware of color temperature. That has a very subtle effect on us that we're not always aware of. Whether it's a warm bulb or a cool bulb or a nature bulb. Also air temperature. Is a place too hot, too cold? Are you comfortable? Its location, don't want to be stuck in a broom closet necessarily. Sounds. are the sounds pleased? Is it too noisy or is it too quiet? And once again, organization. How does the place look? If there's a lot of clutter, you will be distracted. And then you won't be relaxing. So I'm going to go over a little bit of science real quick here. So in a UCLA study with adults and adolescents demonstrated that it's very feasible to teach people with ADHD mindfulness. Interest in mindfulness application for ADHD is getting to be a trend. More and more clinicians and researchers are realizing the usefulness of this approach for ADHD, for their individuals, and for their families. Another study at Virginia Commonwealth University showed that when a mother of children with ADHD underwent mindfulness training, their behavior toward their children changed, resulting in better compliance from their children. So here we see the interaction. Here's the adult doing it, and the shift occurs in the adult, and yet it changes what goes on with the child. See? A study at University of Wisconsin-Madison, published in the Journal of Applied School Psychology, showed that mindfulness improved executive function in children, especially in children who already, when they were assessed, had a lower executive function. The rate was even much, much higher. And a study of mindfulness meditation training for ADHD in adults concluded, overall, current empirical studies support the rationale for application of mindfulness to ADHD. It shows that mindfulness is a feasible and well-respected intervention in ADHD samples and provide promising preliminary support for its efficacy. So I'm going to go through these quickly because I know we're going to be running out of time. The role of mindfulness, as we said before, may offer improved executive function, improved ADHD symptoms, can be combined with cognitive behavioral therapy and medications for an improved outcome. Mindfulness involves increasing awareness of our emotional, mental, and physical selves, and understanding that you have in each one of those pieces. Mindfulness helps us develop an understanding of external stimuli that influence our lives. We are affected by our environments and those around us. Relaxation is a technique used to restore equilibrium after a period of stress. And as this general increase in self-awareness occurs, you will be able to more readily identify signs of stress earlier, implement relaxation strategies that will prevent something from happening, and to learn your own stress triggers and effective interventions. Now I want to go through a mindfulness routine and suggest one. This is very general, but as I define a routine, it's kind of a daily ritual that helps you start and end your day in balance. The key components of this is scheduling time for yourself first thing in the morning and before bedtime. Scheduling time for you, not anybody else. Okay, that's important. That's key. You want to create a space that's free from distraction, that's comfortable and quiet. You want to try to do this ritual the same time every day because that will help focus it into a pattern, and this is a good pattern that you're developing. If you use an alarm clock, it might be nice to go get one that wakes you up with gentle sounds instead of alarm, alarm. That's not the first thing you want to do to set your day in the morning. It's not a good tone to set for the day. And then my suggestion would give yourself 30 minutes in the morning and maybe 15 at night. So what do? First step, before you get out of bed, your eyes open, you ask yourself, did I sleep well? Did I have any dreams? How does my body feel? Is there any aches and pains going on? Do I feel rested? And then before you get out of bed, just look at the day and say, boy, set the intention, I'm going to have a great, wonderful, happy, productive day. You just set that intention, and then you can get out of bed. Next thing you want to do is you want to prepare a glass of room temperature water, spring water preferably, and maybe some fresh lemon squeeze in there if you can handle lemon. This will hydrate and alkaline the body. The body's worked all night repairing muscles. It's used up most of the water that you've had in you. So therefore, your body tends to be more dehydrated. So this is a good time to hydrate it. If you're a coffee or tea person in the morning and you do that early on, then this would be a good time to go and prepare that. Don't drink it just yet. We're going to use it in a second. So now you want to sit comfortably, close your eyes, scan the body, and notice how it feels. Feel anything that's going on with the body. Focus on the breath, the inhalation and the exhalation, watching the belly rise and fall. If you're lying down, put your hand on your belly, feel it rise and fall. You want to do this for 2 or 3 minutes. Then, after you've done this breathing and gotten into that mode, you want to sit in gratitude for all that you have. Be grateful for your family, your friends, your partners, your coworkers, your home, your work, safety, security, and the love that's coming to you all the time. Let go of any negative feelings that may arise, any grievances, any pain you may be noticing. Just let it go. This is not the moment for that. Now we can grab that coffee or tea or glass of water. And as you sip this, I want you to notice how it tastes and how it feels when you're sipping it. Let it come into you. If it's warm, notice the warmth coming in. If it's cool, notice the coolness coming in. Does it have any smells? Notice any thoughts that arise with it. Be very conscious of that first couple sips of water. I'm a coffee drinker, and sometimes when I have that first cup of coffee, it's like it's like a relaxation in and of itself. At this point, we can meditate or pray. So while you're continuing to watch your breath, begin to meditate or pray in whatever manner you wish. Remembering that this is your time. You've set this time aside for you, not anybody else. Notice any thoughts of concern, releasing them and reminding yourself that you are safe and comfortable in this moment. Nothing is going to bother you right now. And then continue this for 5 to 10 minutes or whatever time is comfortable for you. Gratitude. So after the meditation prayer, sit down and jot down 5 things that you are grateful for in your life. And ask yourself, how does it feel to be grateful for these things? And notice any emotions that may arise. At this point, after you've written and done the gratitude, now look around the room. Notice any pictures, flowers, artwork, furniture. Look outside your window, anything in your immediate environment. You're just looking at the things, noticing them, bringing your attention back to the world. Gently focus on one of them, notice what thoughts arise, and move on to the next one. You're doing this very dispassionately. You're doing it as just noticing it, moving on to the next one, noticing it, moving on to the next one, noticing it, moving on to the next one. Allow yourself to experience this peace that you now created in this space. At that point, ask a blessing for yourself and all those who are around you. Taking with you this peace and this outlook that you have for a new, wonderful day, and then go out into the world and start. Now, the modification for children would be try and use the same time of day, morning, afternoon, or evening. Start with just a few minutes for each exercise. If you stay with this, the duration will get longer. Initially, do the exercise with your child until you feel that they are ready to try it on their own. Start with awareness of the body scan, then some light stretching, then their favorite drink, and ask them how it tastes and feels. Ask them to sit or lie down with their eyes closed and notice their breathing. Is it fast or slow, deep or shallow? Have them notice their belly moving up and down. Ask them to think about what makes them happy. What things make them happy? What people make them happy? What about being outside makes them happy? And what activities make them happy? And ask them what they're grateful for. Ask them to open their eyes. And then as you and they go about your day, and it's particularly you as the parent, if you notice any slight shifts in their focus or behavior, compliment your child that you've noticed that there's been this little nice thing that's happened to them. And make mention of the mindfulness session so that they can tie the two together and they realize that they actually can control and have some effect on their lives. Okay, folks, so that about ties it up. I'm sorry I went over a little bit, but if you'd like any information, more information about what I presented in this webinar, if you're interested in a little bit of mindfulness coaching or actually energy balancing sessions, I offer those. It's kind of hard to see my contact information there with the blue on blue, but it's my name, Chuck Pisa at Gmail. And then my website is chuckpisa.com. So I thank you for everyone for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope this helps you have a fuller, more balanced life.
Thank you so much, Chuck. Chuck provided you with a lot of great information on mindfulness and really great strategies that you can start incorporating in your everyday life, whether you want to start using these techniques with yourself or your child or your clients or all of the above. I think he gave us some really great information, and we truly appreciate his time. Now, I will be sending out the email after this webinar and include the webinar recording. And also, I will include Chuck's information there, his contact information, so you can get more information on that. Andy had asked a question on the 4+4+4 strategy. What if a kid responds with, I don't smell anything, or I don't hear anything? And I think, Annie, I know that you are one of our current clients, and you know, when we do the reflection at the end of play attention, I would do it the same way. You know, sometimes we ask our students or our children, you know, what did you learn today? What are you proud of? And they'll say, I don't know. And so it's really important at that moment that you model for them, you know, and you make certain that you say, well, I noticed that when you are really relaxed and you're able to focus in, you're able to push that whale down to the bottom of the ocean. Or I noticed today when someone walked into the room, you were able to keep the game going. So you were able to filter that distraction. So when you reflect, you're actually teaching them. When you model that reflection, you're teaching them how to do that themselves. So when you're doing the strategy that Chuck mentioned, the 4+4+4, if your child says, I don't smell anything, then you say, you know, I smell fresh air. I smell the coffee brewing. And you just model it. And you'll notice that over time, they're going to become more open and start reflecting on their own. That's a really good question, but that's what I would incorporate. Now, I did want to mention, many of you are current clients who are here, so you're using play attention actively. So we've talked to you about how you can use play attention's feedback to help develop mindfulness. Chuck had mentioned the UCLA study that was done. And in that study, Dr. Lydia found that you can use mindfulness techniques successfully with children and adults with ADHD, but some accommodations do have to be made when you're doing this. So I think one of the most powerful things in play attention, when you want to use play attention to teach mindfulness, you can do that because play attention's immediate feedback actually gives them an immediate visual representation of being mindful, right? Because the very definition of being mindful is being able to pay attention to only the present moment, which is the direct opposite of what we think the ADHD mind is, right? Constantly scattered. So it's hard to say, okay, we're going to practice mindfulness now, but you can use play attention's feedback to help develop what it means to be mindful. So if you take, for instance, our activity called attention stamina, remember you can choose from different characters. One is that whale. Once you are focused and paying attention, you're able to push that whale down to the bottom of the ocean just with your attention alone. Now, if you have that whale down at the bottom of the ocean, your mind is in the present moment, right? You're being mindful. But as soon as you start making your grocery list, thinking about what time is it, what time do I have to meet my clients, what am I going to prepare for dinner, as soon as you start having all of these other thoughts, that whale is going to start to float up because you're no longer in the now. You're not being mindful. Your mind is scattered. So you have to control those daydreaming thoughts, focus back in, and bring it back down to the bottom of the ocean. So that's one of the ways that we can use play attention's immediate feedback regarding your attention to help develop awareness and mindfulness. If you want to learn a little bit more about play attention, our next play attention informational webinar is on July 25th at 11 a.m. Eastern. And you can register for that on our website. If you just go to playattention.com, click on webinars, it's the live webinar link there. Or you can call us, of course. Also, if any of you are interested in having a one-on-one professional consult with one of our executive function coaches, please do contact us. Again, you can register for those free consultations on our website, or you can give us a call at that 800 number. Thanks again to Chuck for a wonderful special webinar. Our next special webinar, which is going to take place in August, will be a back to school special with lots of information on techniques, strategies, things you can put into place before the next school year. Thanks so much, everyone. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Take care, everyone.